Hi, this is Brooks Agnew with the potential of all potentialities on Sci-Fi TV. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the union of the polarity. It's a single concept inside of the Hollow Earth presentation, which you can see live. You just need to go to x2radio.com, click on the Events tab on the left-hand side, and it will take you to the upcoming events where you can hear the full presentation. So, what I would like to talk about is where this idea of the union of the polarity came from. Turns out there were 44 ancient cultures that recorded a temporal earth creation. Even in the Old Testament, in Genesis, it talks about earth being formed and mankind being put on that earth. And then later in the book of Genesis, it talks about another creation. And so I want to talk a little bit about the creation process, how the planets are put together, what the nature of that construction is, and maybe where it came from. We'll do this in about 10 minutes. So the second creation, of course, was the spiritual creation. And then there was a combining event for these two Earths. This is a really, really important concept because most people think that the Earth was created in its present form. It wasn't. So there are a couple of ideas for how this began, but most of the 44 cultures agree that there was an event similar to what's in the book of Genesis, a let there be light event. This is where directed energy in the form of light was sent into the void, and chaotic matter was ordered in a sequence of events. We don't really know how long these events took. They could have taken billions of years or millions of years. We don't really know, and it isn't really that important. What is important is to realize that there was a conscious effort of intelligence to organize matter. Now, there are a couple of ideas for how this occurred. One is called the accretion disk theory of solar system formation. This is where these giant spinning disks of gas slowly over time through gravity began to coagulate into what you see here in this drawing, a central sun with planets laying out on some kind of Fibonacci nodal kind of set of orbits. This model is not really gaining a lot of popularity right now. In fact, the more we learn, the less we believe that this is the way that solar systems are actually formed. The other and up-and-coming idea is that we have an electric universe. So there's an electric universe theory of solar system formation. And that is where matter exists mostly in the universe in the form of gas. It's widely dispersed in a lot of cases. In some cases, it's coagulated into these giant clouds. And then what happens is there's a giant discharge of electricity, like a pulse of electricity. And what happens is these arcs organize stars and planets, not in systems, just organized matter. And we can see examples of this, as you can see from this one picture of deep space. I've overlaid the lines to kind of show you how stars in it might have been formed. But in this kind of event, you end up with stars and you end up with planets. So the stars are, of course, a lot more mass to them. They have a lot more energy to them. They're rotating very fast, and they have gravitational fields around them, which the planets can then be captured by the star into orbits, into solar systems. Most of the planets in the galaxy are not rotating around stars. They're just floating around, and they can get captured by various gravitational bodies. But the key is that these gravitational bodies are formed not through the accretion of large puddles of gas, but through these electric arcs. So, be that as it may, what we have now is this picture of two planets being formed. One is a more water planet, one is a more rock and metal planet, and the two planets are then brought together in this combining event. We create a living Earth. It's very similar to, well, to us. We are this collection of molecules, molecular biology we call DNA, which forms genes, and genes form proteins through various duplicative processes. And that doesn't really make up the human being, that makes up the human body. Inside the body is the being itself, this leaping, flying gazelle of a being that has all of the intelligence, all of the will, all of the desire that every human being on earth possesses, all the intelligence. So basically what we have are two bodies. We have the earth and we have the human being, and we have all the individual animals upon it. And they share something very similar. That is to say, the planet itself is a living Earth, and it is unique in the galaxy. We can go for 25,000 light years in all directions with all of our instruments, and we don't find any planet like Earth, not with life in this variety on the surface. It is a very unique planet. It also has the principles of respiration. That is to say, it gives off carbon dioxide, it consumes oxygen, it also consumes carbon dioxide and gives off oxygen, and it tends to sustain all life on it through this process. It also protects itself against toxins, against variations in energy. If there's a massive volcano that spews a bunch of toxins and hot gases and poisons into the atmosphere, it has biological systems on it that clean those things out, and in a few years to 100 years things are back to normal. It tends toward stasis. This appears to meet all of the requirements for a conscious living thing. So we tend to think of the earth as conscious. And all these 44 ancient civilizations believed that as well. They believed that the earth was a living being and that it was conscious. And if we approach earth from that standpoint, even today, we seem to be successful in that approach. So what I did is I wrote 3 books which described the end times. We already know how all these planets come together. We know how the being is formed. We know the temporal matter. We know the spiritual matter. We know the temporal matter and spiritual matter that make up the human body as well. What we also realize from these 44 ancient civilizations is that someday, which they call the end times, these two bodies are going to become dissonant to one another. They're going to go out of harmony with one another. And when this happens, mankind begins to divide and the planet begins to give birth. And so in the second book, which is called The Grand Division, I speak about the two planets coming back apart. Where they were once combined, now they're coming apart. Earth is giving birth to a new Earth. That's why it's called birth. In the final volume, what we see is the two planets have completely come apart. Left behind is the original Earth of rock and metal around this sun, with the moon going around it, but it's a somewhat colder, more lifeless planet because all of the higher order life and higher atom with it is resonating to a higher frequency, and they're going to go somewhere else. So the other world is then created to re-travel back through the Milky Way galaxy to its origin. Higher atom is on this Earth. It is the new Earth, and the Earth begins to return home. And this is the story of the union of the polarity from start to finish. It is encapsulated in the trilogy, which is called the Birth Trilogy. Many people call it the Birth Journey. It is available in paperback on Amazon. It is also available in Kindle and Nook. And the audiobook is available as well if you go to birthtrilogy.com, birthtrilogy.com. Now, if you buy the paperback or you buy the Kindle or the Nook, the audiobook is a free bonus. I will give it to you for free. So if you're not a good reader, don't worry about it. I read them for you. I'm Brooks Agnew. This is the Union of the Polarity on Sci-Spy TV on my Potential of All Potentialities channel. Thank you.